Hey guys, how's it going? Paul Harris here. Welcome back to another one of my videos. Today I thought I'd tackle the subject of stress. So I've been very stressed at work. I used to work at PwC, and I remember this one distinct day when I got some very, very bad feedback at the exact same point where I'd sort of taken the step up and now was sort of in charging a role, and there was a lot of responsibility and I felt completely out of my depth in this moment. And I remember it all sort of circulated around this one moment where it all got a bit much, and I literally stood up from my desk and walked over to this communal coffee area where the entire office could see, and I sat down because I literally I was in this moment, there was loads of events that led up to this, but in this moment I literally couldn't deal with work. I just had to sit there, and I think I had my head in my hands, and I could almost feel myself visibly shaking. I was trying to see things with a lot of humour. You know, when I look back at that event now, even though it was very stressful, I generally smile for some very strange reason. I try and find the humour in it. But in that moment, I remember it being very stressful. Even, I think I was about to go on a holiday, so you'd think I'd be chilling down or calming down, but actually before you go on a holiday, when you start working, it just means you have to like try and cram all the work that hasn't been finished into that week, because you're about to go away for 2 weeks and you're not going to be able to do any work then. So, or I didn't want to take any work away with me. And I remember going on holiday with this stress, and I think the entire holiday was almost ruined, this 2 weeks, because I was taking this stress with me. So I'm not someone who is particularly a stressful person. I don't get stressed often, but I do, I do have my moments, and I do understand, and I can totally sympathise with getting stressed and trying to overcome that feeling, because I know it completely ruins you whenever you get stressed. So I thought I would talk about the things that I do to try and tackle stress, the things that I try and incorporate into my life, whether it be work or outside of work, to help me deal with the stress of work. Now, so it'll be 5 or 10 of the things that I find help me the most with dealing with stress. Hopefully you find it useful, helpful. If you do, subscribe to my channel, like this video. With that being said, let's jump straight into it. So the first and often best solution to try and deal with stress is to actually tackle the thing that's stressing you out head on. This might not be manageable for all different scenarios, but if you feel like the workload is getting too much for you and you're trying to cram it into, say, a working day, or into say like an 8-hour day, and that's what you're working, or a 9-hour day, and you're thinking this is all getting too much, try and assess whether you can just blitz through the work in your spare time. So I know it's not great to do overtime, but if you can, could you just get that work out the way in a weekend and put your mind to ease? So that's the first one, is to try and deal with the problem head on. Or if there's a manager that you're struggling to deal with, or it's some sort of other external problem outside of work, see if you can do things and put things into practice to help deal with the stress. So, and try and break down the things that you're finding difficult to get round to, or that feels like a difficult step, into smaller chunks to try and just progress every day. So to try and deal with that problem head on. So that's my first piece of advice, that if you can do, that's probably going to be the best way forward. The second piece of advice that also probably seems very simple and obvious is to actually rationalize and put into perspective the problem that you have in the grand scheme of things. So what do I mean by that? Well, if it's a work-related problem, you should realize that it is just work at the end of the day. And it can, if I often saw a lot of people in PwC, or a lot of people in my other jobs, really busting their ass as if like, if the thing they don't get done by this time or this day, the whole thing's going to fall down. The whole exercise is going to fall down, manager's going to be on your back, everyone's going to give you a bollocking or whatever. And the reality is, often the guidelines that have been set are just guidelines. So if you miss a deadline, as long as you're telling people that you're feeling like you're struggling to meet the task and it's not a complete surprise to people when it occurs, then, just realize that it's not the end of the world if you don't get that piece of work done by that time. There's always extra time to be to find, to be able to do that work. You're always able to extend deadlines most of the time. And also the reality is, when I talk about it just being a job, there are plenty of jobs out there. I sometimes thought the best thing for me when I was dealing with stress was when I left PwC, and it was like, oh, there are actually other jobs available that don't have the same level of stress, or I can always just leave. It doesn't sound good to like sort of run away from your problems. I'm not really saying that. But what I'm saying is to be aware that what the bubble that you're living in right now is just you being absorbed and your brain sort of collapsing in on itself and feeling like there's no escaping the current stressful situation you're in. And the reality is, if you can just sort of look at yourself from a distance, at 10,000 feet, and realize you're just a small piece of the puzzle, and that there's loads more stuff going on, and there's jobs elsewhere, and you can always do other things. And I always just feel like, a bit of perspective is what's needed whenever you're feeling stressed. The third thing to try and do whenever you're getting in a very big rut with work or with other things that are stressful is to literally walk away. Close your laptop, set a deadline, in terms of when you're going to finish work. Say that you're not going to work on the weekends, even if that means you're going to be way behind. You need time for your brain to adjust to the stress and to adjust to what's going on, and to sort of give your brain time to relax, because sometimes it can feel like the stress is compounding. Like I know at work it often feels like a deadline's coming at you quick. You need to get this piece of work done. Then it's like someone else is asking you to do work. Then another deadline seems to be coming on top of that deadline. It's like, bloody hell, I just had this deadline and now you're telling me this needs to be done today. And you know what's funny in these situations is then someone like a partner or a CFO then says, no, this is what needs to be done today. And all of a sudden, these two deadlines that you originally stressed with now just go, oh, someone's told me that this is the main thing, and they're prepared for me to just not do anything else. So it's like, move those. Like this I was stressed with. Then another deadline comes in and I was mega stressed. Now someone has told me that this is the only thing I should focus on. It's like, oh, forgot about those last two things that were previously stressing me out. But that's sort of a separate point. But what I think is important here is that when you have a deadline, and when you have a deadline, it feels like everything is collapsing in on itself. You have loads of work piling up. You sometimes are just like, right, okay, now I just need to focus. But your brain can't keep going and going and going. And after a while, your brain's just going to get too overloaded, and you need to sort of shut your computer and walk away. It seems really hard to do, and give yourself that break to come at it fresh the next day, and you're going to work so much harder the next day. So really giving yourself that timeline. You need those breaks, you need that weekend to refresh, to properly go at it the next day, the next week. Okay, I think I'm on my fourth point, and the fourth point is going to be to actually talk to people. What do I mean by this? Well, talk to everybody about your problems all the time. That's what I find helps. A problem shared is a problem halved. And I think when you're at work and there's things that are stressing you out, normally the best thing to do is to go to your manager or the person directly that you're going to be reporting to and just tell them, I'm stressed. I mean, in reality, that's probably the best thing that you can say. I'm stressed. I have this work. Help. And I feel like, I don't know if it's just British culture, but we don't like to really ask for help. I think there's a lot of pride at work, particularly when you're in an industry where you think everyone's so clever and you don't want to let your guard down and come across as being not so clever. But someone's going to help, and particularly if it's a manager or someone who can actually deal with it and sort of speak to some other manager, and just, there's no shame in that. I always thought it was a bit of a shame to, when I was at PwC, you obviously start PwC with a load of graduates, but even talking to those guys might not help a lot. You sort of have to go to the right person, and probably your people manager is going to be the best, or the person that you're going to be reporting to. Because if it's your peers, even your peers might not want to let their guard down and say that they're finding it hard, because it's quite competitive and everyone's sort of trying to outdo each other in a weird way. So I think like you want to go to someone probably more senior and just say that you're struggling, whatever, and that's fine. At the end of the day, the best way you're going to learn is to realize what you find difficult and accepting the things that you find difficult, and then once you have accepted it, you can then resolve it and learn how to deal with it. And I think if you're someone who's very open and someone who's able to accept the fact that they're finding things hard, the best way you're going to improve on that is by someone coming in and telling you what to do. Whether it be if you have your workload that's very, very extensive, if you go to your manager and say, look, I'm struggling, I can't deal with this amount of workload, they, as a manager, should pass that workload on to someone else to stop you getting burnout. So that's my next point that I think can help you with the stress. Point number 5, okay? So these ones are going to start to go away from work now, and things that you can do outside of work to help deal with stress. So the next one is to be getting enough sleep, okay? I don't want to sound like your mother, but sleep is a very important thing. Okay, I read this book, Why We Sleep, and in it, it says that everyone should be getting 8 hours, not the 6 hours that some people get. And it actually said for every hour less you get per night, less than that, so if you sleep, say, 7 hours or 6 hours, and you are sleeping and you get 1 hour less every day, that amount of sleep that you're not getting compounds to the next day. So it's not like every hour you lose off sleep one day is you're going to be fine the next day, and then the next day you're going to feel just as good. No, you're going to feel gradually worse. Every night that you're not getting sleep, you're going to feel gradually worse. And if you don't get enough sleep and you get 1 hour less than your body needs per night for 2 weeks, your cognitive ability is equivalent to if you didn't get a whole night's worth of sleep. So on the 2 weeks after you consistently getting not enough sleep, you're going to really not be functioning very well. So it's very, very important that you get sleep. Jordan Peterson, who is a YouTuber and not really a YouTuber, he's like a professor and a psychiatrist, I think, by trade, and he says that the first thing that he prescribes people when they come in with depression is to ask them how much sleep they get, because apparently a good night's sleep consistently is equivalent to a very strong antidepressant drug. So you want to be getting enough sleep. That is going to make a massive improvement, and particularly because when you start doing your career, you're probably still socializing, you're talking to a lot of friends, you're trying to mingle, you might be going out on a Friday or Saturday and drinking. Well, when you drink, that drinking prevents you from having REM sleep, and as a result, on the 2 days where you probably have the ability to catch up because you're not stressed with work, you're probably not getting enough sleep and catching up on what's needed on the weekends. So you're going to have to get the sleep somewhere, and you just need to make sure that if you're not getting it on the weekends, you're getting it on the weekdays. You just need to be getting sleep. So that's my 5th stress beater. I think that was my 5th. Number 6 is another obvious one probably, but diet, okay? Diet is so important, and I'll tell you why I think this is important. Because firstly, not just to say things like you are what you eat, but and I don't even mean in terms of losing weight. What I mean a diet's good for is you're taking control of something in your life. You're telling yourself that you're not going to eat sugar, or you're going to keep under a certain amount of calories, and it's something productive and something meaningful that you're achieving every day to make you feel better, and that betterness is going to compound the stressness. Okay, so you might be stressed at work and you might be beating yourself up over something, but at the end of the day, if you can tick off that you've achieved something, then you're going to feel better about it. Like the army, every day they wake up and they make their bed and they make it all very presentable. And that's because they're starting the day with something positive, that they are sort of jogging their brain into that positive activity of doing something and saying, yes, I've achieved that. And I think a diet is good for that. It's a good ability to sort of control your urges to try and eat crap. And I know when you're tired, and I know when you're at work and you just need the energy and it's hard to keep going, that the only thing you want to do is pig out on sugary stuff. That's going to compound your feeling of grogginess and not feeling fresh and alert. So I think eating healthily and sticking to some sort of diet is a positive way forward to deal with stress. The next point, and I've forgotten where we are in the countdown. I think we're on 7, okay? The next point is exercise, okay? So exercise, similarly to the eating healthily diet bit, but exercise, I'm going to talk about it from a different angle. And say you're stressed, right? And I've been, as I've said before, I've been stressed at work, where I've been like, you know, I've had enough of this and I'm having a mental breakdown, sort of, in a, you know, sort of way. I remember, I feel like in those situations, the best thing for you is to go for like a run or to do some sort of exercise where you're going to be pushing yourself to the point where your brain isn't able to think anymore about the thing that was stressing you out. So I've been stressed where it's like on the weekends, your brain can't stop thinking about work or can't stop thinking about the thing that's stressing you out. You just want to, you feel like, look, I don't want to go out, I don't want to do anything fun, I want to stay at home and I just want to focus on this thing that stresses me out. And unfortunately, that's probably the wrong way to go about it. You need to get your brain to jolt out of that zone where you can not stop thinking about that thing that's stressing you out. You need to go for a run or do some sort of exercise where you're pushing yourself. And I'll run, and I'm not a good runner at all. You know, if I don't exercise and I start exercising, you know, I'm doing like 11-minute miles. Like, it's honestly ridiculous. You know, very slow jog. But 5 minutes in, you're thinking, I still remember that stressful thing. Oh, that's annoying. Oh, that's awkward. That's horrible that I thought about that. And then 8 minutes in, you're thinking, oh, I'm a bit tired now, actually. I don't really want to do this run. 12 minutes in, you're like, every step hurts. This hurts, this hurts, this hurts. And it draws, everything becomes internalized. It like draws all those exterior things around you. You know, you don't see that cow anymore, that horse that you're running by, because all you care about is that step ahead, you know? And I think that's a great thing for dealing with stress and jolting you out of this negative mind frame, is the ability to sort of focus your mind into your head on something that is, you know, purely just for you for that moment. You know, you don't have your phone, you're not looking through social media or all the rest of it, and, you know, barely distracting yourself from your day-to-day life. This is like internalizing your thoughts. So exercise is important from that perspective, and it's definitely helped me with my stressful situations. Okay, the next one, which is sort of similar to the last one, and this one's a bit of a one that you might not want to try or don't think is going to work for you, but is to actually do some form of meditation. Now, this has become relatively popular with new apps and mindfulness apps and all the rest of it. I actually went on this course to learn how to do this thing called transcendental meditation. It was something that was recommended by my brother because he did it and he said it was good. It cost loads, and I went on this course, and it was a bit funny because you went along and there's like a whole ceremony you had to do, and you go along, and I had to bring a piece of juicy fruit and like a white cloth as a gift to the guy who was teaching me how to do it. And at the end they were telling me that there's these transcendental meditation centers where like people get so into the meditation they actually physically float. Now, that's not me. I don't really subscribe to that kind of stuff, but I do subscribe to doing meditation, and I don't do it enough. But when I do set myself, say, 15 minutes a day to just not do anything, just put your phone down, no TV, no distractions, just you sitting there, you know, thinking of your mantra, thinking mindfulness, not allowing your thoughts to be pushed to what is stressing you out. Again, the same thing with exercise. Having that time where you're just prepared to go no, remind you that you don't have to think about the things that are stressing you out. You know, it's always a choice. It's a choice to think the things that you want to think. And it just helps. Unless you try it and unless you do it regularly, then you're probably never going to realize that it can help. But it does help. And it's helped with my stress. You know, if I'm ever aligned and my life's going so good that I'm able to do every single one of these things I've talked about, from diet to meditation to exercise, it honestly, like, it makes you think like I'm walking on air right now. Like, I'm walking on, is that the right saying? You know, walking on clouds? I don't know. I don't know what the saying is. It just makes you feel so good that when you're doing all these things successfully every day. And actually, you know what the real shame of it is? When you are living very positively and doing all the things that you should be doing, your brain weirdly gets used to it, and then you think to yourself, oh, I don't really need to do this anymore, and you stop doing the things that you know are positive things to be doing, and unfortunately you slip into bad habits, and then like 3 months down the line you've put on 10 pounds, I haven't exercised, you know, I'm not meditating, and I'm stressed again. And it's like you constantly have to work at these things and constantly try and do things that are going to help your mental state of mind. And yes, so meditation, that's something that you should definitely be trying, particularly if you're prone to getting stressed. The next thing and last thing that I'm going to talk about, which might be an extreme thing, particularly for you young guns out there who love your TikTok and all your other social media, but I gave up social media a long time ago. I know I make YouTube videos. Is that social media? Maybe. But it ain't Facebook, it isn't Instagram, it isn't TikTok, it isn't Vine, it isn't MySpace, Friendster. It isn't all the other ones, all the new ones where, you know, actually the interesting thing with social media is every new one is designed for people with a shorter attention span than the last generation. So we went from Facebook, which was like a page that you'd have to read, then it was Instagram, which is like a picture, then it's like TikTok, which is like a 3-second clip. Next it'll just be next the social media will just be a screen in front of you with your friends' images on, and they'll flicker very, very quickly. It won't be for people with epilepsy, that's for sure. Epilepsy. So what the hell am I talking about? Basically, try and quit all social media, okay? Why do I say this? Let's bring into the fact that, let's talk about something different, which is happiness, right? Happiness is apparently something that peters off once you reach a certain income level. So people think money buys you happiness, but actually, once you reach about 70k and you can afford to save, go on holidays, buy all the things in Maslow's hierarchy of needs, you know, buy shelter and security and all the rest of it, apparently your happiness peters off because it's just all excess and doesn't have the same utility as it used to. You know, the first 40k, you have a lot of utility for that money. They did another study after that said that actually that's not true, because the implication on money is that people compare themselves to other people. And the things that become, you know, you might have enough money for yourself, and if you live within your own bubble, you're very happy. But when you have a group of friends, and you then have a group of friends who get richer, you then become discomforted by the fact that the other people around you have more than you. Now, why do I say that when it comes to stress and it comes to social media? Well, social media is a device that seems largely used for people to talk about the best parts about their life. And when you're stressed and you're dealing with things that are hard to deal with, the worst thing I think that you could do is go on social media and see everyone else living their life so lovely, you know, and having such a great time, because you're dealing with something that's tough, and you're then having to look at other people that seem to be having such a great time all the time. Now, that isn't necessarily exactly why I quit social media altogether. I also found that the people that I had on social media that I actually wanted to know about didn't post anything, and I ended up just watching a lot of the people that I weren't really mates with in the first place do a lot of things that I weren't interested in. So that's kind of why I quit it. Also, I would, you know, on Instagram, I'd end up, you know, I'd scroll down, it'd be like 3 pictures of people that I actually cared about, and then I'd be back to the pictures I'd already seen, and then I'd go onto the other one, which I think was like a heart shape on Instagram, and I'd just scroll for ages down these like awful memes, just endlessly going down. It would waste time. And at that, from that perspective as well, in terms of wasting time, you should be spending that energy on trying to deal with the problems that's stressing you out, as opposed to spending time being stressed and trying to ignore it by looking at something that isn't actually progressing your life in any way. You need to focus on doing, you know, from 1 to 9 first, and then set yourself, at the very least, just saying, look, I'm going to go on social media for 20 minutes every day. And in that way, you're just going to be a lot less stressed if you're able to actually deal with the problem and trying to, you know, stop ignoring it by going on social media apps. Anyway, there we are. Hopefully you found that interesting. That's what I do. I try and see everything with a bit of humour. That's probably why I had to leave auditing. It's a very serious profession. I always remember partners used to tell me about big frauds that had occurred, and I used to, you know, they'd tell me about it and I'd laugh. And they go, why are you laughing? And I thought it was a big fraud. I thought it was like humorous. Whenever someone says a gigantic fraud, I just laugh, because why would they phrase it like that? But I didn't get along there. Too much humour. Anyway, subscribe to my channel if you enjoyed that. Like this video if you like it, you know, all the rest of it. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.